we've got a loaded card, at least for 2025 standards. So from Islam Makhachev's pursuit of immortality as a potential 2-division champion and UFC co-record holder for consecutive wins, to the biggest and most important women's bout, at least one of them in MMA history, Saturday's loaded card is filled with many things to talk about. What is the one element of this card that either intrigues or excites you the most as we head into Saturday?
I think that it's both a showcase of this, and depending on the results, it could make the argument ironclad, which is that there's a great argument to be made, BC, that welterweight is the best division in the sport right now. And there were times in the past where that was the case, certainly, but there were times where it wasn't. It kind of fluctuated and was lost for a while, particularly as bantamweight surged, as lightweight surged. And I think most people have been historically, at least in the last few years, kind of considering 135 or 155 the best. At times, some of the top stuff going on at 145 with Volk and Max and Ilya Topuria maybe undid some of that. But BC, just look at 170 right now. You've got 3 fights just on the main card about 170, the main event itself. And then, of course, Sean Brady versus Michael Morales, which could be a #1 contender fight. Then you've also got Leon Edwards, former champ, taking on Carlos Praches. Leon needs a win real badly. We're moving maybe the most important division and maybe the best division forward in a huge way to get some answers. But what it really shows you is all the names that are not on this list that are still actually quite relevant as well. Perhaps a chief among them, Ian Gary, who I know has a fight coming up against Bilal. There's also Shavkat Rakhmonov sitting out there. What is it going to mean if Islam wins and now you add him as like a permanent fixture, or at least a semi-permanent fixture in this division? To me, there's this big argument all the time. What's the best division in the sport? You can make it now already, but I think after Saturday, it's going to be very, very clear. 170 is the division of kings, and we're in for a great 2026 if these guys can stay healthy and stay active.
I'm glad you said that. That was going to be my #1 answer about sorting out the deepest division, top 1 through 15, with 3 fights we need to see here on the main card, obviously including that championship bout in the main event where Della Maddalena will be a +220 underdog, according to DraftKings, against the -270 Islam Makhachev. But just the fact that in this era where maybe cards aren't as strong historically, they didn't water down MSG. It still feels like a major. And from the recent weeks, I got to bring up this graphic that our friends at MMA On Point put out there, Luke. If you take RDR versus Allen, which was a replacement main event that had a kind of weird and lame turnout, which was the ass of this horse, then we had UFC 321, which had some meat on it. But then you had the ribs showing for the last 2 fight night cards. How about that golden stallion that is 322 on Saturday? So many fights worth talking about and fighters. And Luke, when we talk about that main event, we all want to see what Islam will look like at 170 inside the cage. Well, here's what he will physically look like. Yo, this mother effer is jacked, LT.
Yeah, I mean, he's not cutting a bunch of weight this time, huh? You can see a more, normal, so to speak, looking Islam. Telling you, man, I can't. I just can't wait for Saturday. I just can't wait.
Fight. It's such a good fight. I love the storyline. 2-division champion. I mean, Luke, is it? No, I'll save a lot of these talks for pregame. I want to ask you also about the impact of JDM having Volk and Craig Jones in his corner. I've got a little bit of sound here of JDM talking to the New York Post exactly about this.
Your opponent coming up in Islam Makhachev, he does his best when he's able to get the fight down. You've worked with Craig Jones, of course, famously in terms of improving in that area and that kind of thing. Where does his impact kind of help you the most when you're preparing for an opponent like both of these guys?
I mean, yeah, he just instills confidence. He doesn't try and change too much, He sort of looks at my style and then sees what will work, and then we sort of he doesn't try to change too much, just sort of a little small changes, small ideas that will work, but we feel like we've got another good game plan. I feel like we've got some good tricks. Obviously, Islam's very good on the floor, a good finisher, definitely probably a better finisher than Bilal, no doubt. So, but I feel like I can, again, shock the world in the grappling department, keep it on the feet, and get the win.
Luke, is it a bigger unknown whether JDM can handle the grappling of Islam, or whether Islam can get the better of him on the feet in this matchup?
The first. Could Islam get the better of him on the feet? Of course. I mean, they're wearing small gloves. There's a lot of things moving different directions. It's MMA. It's wild. It's chaotic. Absolutely. But really, it comes down to Islam being able to mix the game up. Can he or can't he? And if he can, to what extent and where, and what does it yield? That's where this fight is won and lost. That is where everything happens. Because if just straight up, if I told you Islam can't get him down and can't hold him for any meaningful time against the fence, that would make the pick relatively easy. You would just pick JDM. But we don't know if that's the case, and we don't know to what extent it will be the case, even if it's at least somewhat true. That is the main focus of this fight.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Let's go to some fun sound here from Craig Jones talking about this relationship.
Last time I trained with Della would have been doing some seminars in Perth. So we had a relationship for a bit of time, but really I was just a fan, and I keep saying this, I've stolen a lot of moves from him, but I think he smokes so many bonks that he forgets that those are his moves, and I got to reteach them back to him and take full credit for it.
Hilarious stuff right there. Love that. That was, by the way, Craig Jones being interviewed by friend of the program, Al Wendling over there, who's a part, of course, the CGI broadcast, does a lot of great work in the BJJ world. We can't forget about how great this co-main event is that has been a pick'em for most of the week, a literal pick'em. Right now, the odds on this women's flyweight championship bout, Valentina Shevchenko -125, Zhang Weili +105. Hey, Long Island, look, play this picture. We're talking about Islam getting jacked in his new weight class. How about Weili with this video? She's ready for 125. Not having to cut down to 115. LIL, when I look at this matchup storyline wise, I look mostly at the history involved here. The fact that it's two of the most accomplished fighters in female, MMA history facing off against one another with so much at stake, 2 division championship opportunity for Weili. And I go, okay, maybe it's not a fight that's as historically relevant as Cyborg versus Nunes. And maybe it's not as pioneering as Cyborg Carano or as big as some of the Rousey matchups, but it has so many other things going for it. And I wonder if you agree with me on this. I was talking to CBS's Brent Brookhouse as we were sort of framing this fight, and he came up with a great point. As great as Valentina and Weili are, you could argue that both lack that one singular Hall of Fame win in their career. Maybe you can say it's Weili out brawling Joanna to defend the title there. But Valentina, for as great as she is, and by the way, if she wins on Saturday, she'll tie Amanda Nunes for the most title fight wins in women's UFC MMA history there. I almost feel like this is sort of the defining fight in some ways of both of their careers. Is that crazy, or are you with me on that?
I never once thought of it like that, but that is actually a great point. Because, like, what is Val's best win? Like, we're not talking performance. You could say, like, Jessica Ai is her best performance, but, like, it's obviously not her best win. Is it also Joanna? Is it Holly Holm, Juliana Pena? I don't know.
No, it's a great point. It's like she came into 125, Val, when it was kind of empty. It has reloaded. I give her a lot of credit for the second and third wins over Grasso. I said second because she got screwed on that draw. And then the Ferro win I thought was great. But where is that one definitive one? This would certainly be that in some ways for Val, although Val did beat Joanna as well as Weili. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's going to be a great fight. I'm fired up. Long Island, look, do you have any storyline associated to Saturday that you're most juiced about?
I'm looking at this Leon Edwards Carlos Prates fight, dude. I feel like Leon Edwards, the odds are what's sticking out to me. He's like +170. And I was on Submission Radio yesterday, and I was talking about how, like, even in Carlos Prates versus Jeff Neal, I was big on Jeff Neal in that fight. And you already know I said Ian Gary was going to run through it. Like, I'm not a hater of Carlos Prates. I actually really like the guy. I just feel like I'm a doubter of his skills. And I feel like someone like Leon Edwards, who's lost 2 in a row, could probably use a win here. He's lost to the number 1 contender, number 2 contender. Not bad losses at all. This is going to be a big fight for either guy. Whoever wins, it's intriguing because it's like, oh, shit, Prates is for real. Or it's like, oh shit, Leon still in the top 5, still kind of has it. So
agreed. Prates -198 favorite over the +164 Edwards, and you can't sleep on Sean Brady versus Michael Morales. Holy crap, -142 Brady, the slight favorite over the +120 Morales.